Today we're going inside of our config to completely reset it, then optimize it to overall boost our FPS. After, I'll go over a couple of CPU optimizations, then finish off with mouse and keyboard tweaks to lower our input delay. But starting off with the config, like every season, I recommend you do reset this. On your desktop, press Windows key and R, then type in %local app data, then you want to press F, scroll down until you find Fortnite game, and this right here is what we're going to be resetting. We're essentially going to delete it, but if you're a bit worried about that, you can make it back up, but I'm just going to go ahead and go straight for it and literally press the delete button, and just like that, it's been deleted. And the reason for this is it gets rid of all the old outdated files and replaces them with brand new ones. Now, after launching the game, it'll ask you if you want to find the best settings. You want to click decline, and once you enter, if you go into your settings, you will notice that by default it's actually reset all your video settings and just your video settings. Things like your sense and keybinds have not been reset, so don't worry about that. But once you've optimized all those settings there, if you simply close down the game, we can now go back into local app data. If you scroll down to the Fortnite game folder, you'll see it's reappeared with brand new fresh settings. Just go inside of it, then go into saved, then config, then Windows client, and here is your fresh game user settings config file. So if you slowly scroll down until you get to these global illumination quality settings, you want all of these on 0. Just change them from 1 to 0. Another thing I recommend disabling is the energy saving modes. Apparently these can give you a slight FPS boost, so you want to change both of these to false if you can. If you scroll down, you will find the scalability groups. Now, the resolution quality, I do highly recommend using 100, as this will give you the best quality. Some people do lower this value slightly if they want more FPS. View distance I talked about earlier, I like having that on a higher one. And then for all of these settings right here, they should be on 0. So for shading quality, go ahead and turn that off. Same with foliage quality, and then you want landscape quality off too, and all of these off or on 0 should give you more FPS. After, don't forget to click file and then save. Next, we're going to try some CPU optimizations using Process Lasso, which is free and safe. Even some pros like Tens have used it in the past. But to get the app, just simply Google Process Lasso and then download it. And once you have installed it or have downloaded the application itself, you can see it does look pretty confusing. Now, I myself am still playing around with this, testing different benchmarks and stuff for my current PC, as what I've heard with this program is it differs from PC to PC, like mileage basically might vary. But I'm going to show the best settings that I've found so far, and it's something that you can play around with if you want, and if it works good, great, and if it doesn't, you can go ahead and revert it. But so far, I've found if you go to the top left corner under main, it's important that you have this checked, that's manage processes of all users, as well as pro balanced enabled checked. Some people also have the performance mode enabled, but I've not found that beneficial just yet. I find the other settings just fine. But after that, you can go ahead and click off it and actually open up the game of choice, which for me, that's going to be Fortnite. And once the game itself is running, if you go back into Process Lasso under active processes, you will find the game right there, and you want to go ahead and right click on it. The first thing most people do is go under CPU priority under always, so it's always happening, and they set it from the default none, or it might be on normal, to high, and that right there makes the priority class on the specific game high, as by default it is on normal. Another thing people like to do is right click on it yet again, but go under CPU affinity under always, and they actually select the CPU affinity. Now in here you can see that it's checked like everything, and by default it does check both the performance cores and the efficiency cores. But I've heard that for some PCs out there, and this is not for every PC, but for some, it's something you've just got to try. If you click performance cores and only use the performance cores, this can be beneficial. For me, I didn't notice any sort of difference, so I just like to cancel this. But that right there is all the settings I've found so far for Process Lasso. It's a very interesting program. If you've got any suggestions yourself, feel free to comment them below. Moving on, got timer resolution, which is another application people have been using to lower their input delay. The app itself basically changes the resolution of the default Windows timer, and in turn, people claim that this makes their gameplay feel more responsive, gives them higher FPS, and even lower ping. As always though, the results that you get will depend on the system you're using, so please do your research before setting this up. If you do fancy it though, it's a very simple setup, just literally download it. I believe this is the official legit one on screen right now. For some reason now you need to pay for it. I always thought this was free, but once you've installed it, if you just click maximum, that will lower your timer resolution. Next up, let's optimize Discord and Google Chrome. Firstly, in Discord, Discord, head into the settings and scroll down to advanced. You'll find the hardware acceleration setting, which is enabled by default and basically helps improve the overall smoothness of the app. But if you disable this, you could get a decent FPS boost. If not, you can simply revert it back. You can also do the same thing in Google. Just head into settings, then go into system. You will see the hardware acceleration setting. Similar to Discord, this setting helps improve the overall smoothness of the app. Moving on, if you Google your mouse's software, so for example, if I use a Logitech mouse, I'll just type in Logitech mouse, then software. If you then open it up, what I recommend doing in here is using a high DPI, as this can prevent pixel skipping, where your aim may suddenly jump/skip a pixel, which can occur more so on older generation mice. I do think at the very least though, it is a good idea to raise your DPI above 400, as that's quite an outdated DPI. That's also why a lot of pro players these days are using at least 800 to 1600 mouse DPI, and I made a video talking more about this subject on screen right now. If you are concerned though about raising your DPI and losing your in-game sense, you can get your exact in-game sense easily. Just head over to my website and use the eDPI converter tool, and you can basically keep your in-game sense the exact same but also increase your DPI. Next from that, you also want to avoid using RGB effects on your mouse. Now, I know these might look cool with the various animations and lighting effects, however research has found that they do add slight latency. Running an RGB effect/animation can take a great toll on the MCU, as it requires a lot of processing power and will delay other processes, so you're better turning off those RGB effects. It's super simple. Just head into your mouse's software, then go into the lighting section and literally just disable it inside of there. It's also why most modern competitive mice like the Logitech G Pro Superlight 2 does not come with RGB. Their older mouses did used to have that, but the new ones just don't. Next, we've got keyboard optimizations. Now, in your keyboard software, you'll see an actuation point, and for this, a lot of pros tend to set this to the lowest one possible in order to get the fastest input, as you can expect, the lower this value is, the more sensitive it'll be, and the higher the value is, the less sensitive it'll be. So most pros tend to put this to the lowest one possible to get the fastest actuation point. You also may have a rapid trigger setting, and this basically eliminates the second slowest element in input latency, return key press travel before key activation. This rapid trigger setting dramatically changes the actuation and deactivation point, and your keys will actually activate before you intend to press them and deactivate when you intend to let go. And you've got some settings you can play around with here. You also may have an additional setting that can lower your input delay even more. You can see here this cuts off 1 ms, which is pretty good. If it helps, please drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and use my code in the item shop if you do buy that brand new battle pass.